Boom, boom. We're here. We're on. We're live.
Yeah, finally.
Got it done. A couple months.
Yeah, that's right. End of the Road podcast.
March 28th, 2022. Yeah, so first thing we got to start off with, we got kind of blessed with the topic right off the bat of starting this podcast. Will Smith smacked the fucking shit out of Chris Rock last night at the Oscars.
Yeah, I heard about it. I feel like it might have been staged, but I didn't actually see it yet.
Oh, so. You're on the it's a conspiracy theory, Mr. Tinfoil Hat?
No, I just saw it, and I'm like kind of fed up with Oscars. I rarely ever watch it, and it's because they're, I don't know. I just kind of just found, who was it last? Was it last year? Who's that guy? He's from the English version of The Office.
Oh, Ricky Gervais.
Yeah, Ricky Gervais.
I think you're talking about
them apart. Like ever since then, I was. Just
that was the Golden Globes, but same thing. Yeah, same piece of shit.
I don't follow any of that shit.
Yeah. No, I totally agree, and I think like with it, like obviously, like you're not expecting fucking violence in an Oscars show, so like it was kind of interesting to see. I'm of the belief that it was totally like it was something that happened naturally. Just if you look at the way. Like Chris Rock reacted to it,
just
like when he got smacked,
genuinely just got smacked up.
He got smacked up, and after like even the retorts between him and Will, like you could tell that like he didn't know exactly how to proceed, what to say. Like when the second time Will said, "Keep my wife's name out of your fucking mouth," he basically like just said, "This is the greatest moment in television history," which is kind of a weird fucking thing to say because like I get where he was going with it in the sense that. It was such an insane clip to happen. Like if that would have happened in the 1990s, fuck, like it would have been huge news, right?
I mean, it's huge news now. It's fucking everywhere you look. On Facebook, I just keep seeing this meme of like,
Smith smacking the shit out of him.
Exactly.
But like the other thing that I kind of wanted to bring up about this point, because I mean, by the time this podcast comes out, it's going to be a little bit old news to be going over this, but the thing that I think is most important is it kind of showed like the glaring weakness and like what Hollywood is today and how it's kind of ruining the art of cinema on the mainstream level. Like we had the host of a show make a joke about Jada Pickett's hair. Now he said G.I. Jane, like when does G.I. Jane 2 come out? No, people are not aware of that movie. It's a movie with Demi Moore. She plays basically she's in the military, and in that movie she rocks a shaved head.
Oh, okay.
And the reason that he was making that Jada was not impressed with it is because she suffers from alopecia. So what happens is with alopecia is it's an autoimmune disorder, and one of the symptoms that comes from that is that you have patchy baldness.
Yeah, exactly.
So hence the shaved head. The weird part of it though is like when he was making these jokes. If you look at it, Will Smith was laughing on the original cut of the joke.
That just supports my theory.
Right? I agree, but then Jada reacted wrongly, and Will was almost like the classic husband, like, oh shit, like that was pretty funny. Looked at the wife, seeing that she was not impressed, and then literally out of nowhere just got up and smacked the shit out of him. Definitely, like that's the weird part of it all. But if you think about like. What's at play there? Like he might have not realized I don't even think he might have got the reference to the joke like at the start. Like he might have just thought it was something
just
funny
to laugh with everybody. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I've seen that at the Oscars all the fucking time. Are you kidding me? It's like that's their go-to. Everybody like somebody starts laughing. It's like, oh, that was funny. And everybody joins in like a fucking I don't know. That's the weird part about that sort of show to me, because I feel like the fakeness is on a whole different fucking level when you get to that point. Like
well, and like going into the fakeness, right? So you had literally someone commit assault on another human being on like national television, black man smacking a black man, right? Which would which is, I mean, good. Thank God it wasn't a white guy smacking a fucking black guy, because goddamn, but
holy shit,
it would have been bad. But
I could not stop. I couldn't help but think about like Jorge Masvidal slapping Kobe or punching Kobe in the back of the head. He was just sucker punched him, and that's immediately what I thought of. Actually, when I saw that, I was like, oh yeah, a lot of suckers these days. But it was a smack, I guess, so it wasn't actually like a punch or anything like that.
No, it was just a strong open hand slap, and you know, I'll give it props to Chris Rock. Like if that was real, like Will threw his hip into it. It was a legit slap. Like that fucking guy smacked him good.
And you saw like the full video, like him just walking up, and smacking him.
And I will say this: Will Smith, when like the most impressive part of that entire thing was when he turned around and walked off stage. But he had a fucking pimp stride going for a long time. Like he was just made Chris.
Well,
his
you know,
bitch.
maybe he felt good because he like stood up for his daughter or whatever.
His wife, yeah. But
his daughter. Well, his daughter's one with alopecia, right?
No, the wife is. I'm actually not sure.
No, isn't Jada his daughter?
I wish our producer did something and could type, but
I'm almost certain that's his daughter. Yeah. It's his wife. Oh, it is.
It's the wife that has alopecia. Okay, yeah. Okay. But yeah, the other thing that like is weird is like how.
But she rocks. She's practically. Every time I've seen her, she's been like short haired, right? Like.
Yeah, but I think she was diagnosed with alopecia in 2018.
How old is she? Do we
Jada?
know?
Well, she used to like be friends with Tupac, man. She's been around for fucking ever.
So eventually, that shit's gonna phase you. I mean.
Yeah, I mean it is fucked up, but like the thing that
was probably the most exciting part of the whole fucking night. Let's be honest. Like, what else? Anything? Can you reference anything else in that night? Did you watch anything else? Or is that
the
just
first deaf actor won an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. I believe the movie's called Kodo. So that was kind of cool to see someone who is actually deaf. I haven't watched the movie myself. It was an Apple TV movie, but it's the premise of the story is kind of interesting in the sense that it's a deaf family. It also won Best Picture. It beat Dune out. Dune did win a bunch of awards, but it didn't take home the big one. Okay. But yeah, Coda is basically the story of a deaf family and the one daughter in the family.
I'm already falling asleep.
Okay, all right, I'm gonna stop. All right.
Holy fuck, dude. Yeah, fucking. I'm not into dramatic movies anymore. Like I used to be able to watch them all the time, but lately I've been just watching like. It has to have action in it. It has to have like
some
good. Like, of course, it has to have a good storyline. But if it doesn't have any sort of like excitement in it, I'm immediately fucking like. I feel like I get enough drama in my day-to-day life that I fucking do not want to pour that into my like outside activity.
What's going on in your day-to-day life?
Well, I manage a bar, right? So I work with a ton of women, I guess you can say. I don't want to.
Good night, Irene. Hello, YouTube.
But I mean, there's a lot of drama. Like there's a lot of drama. It's every day. It's less drama than what I've been typically used to working in other fields like the oil field or anything like that.
So if you were working with all men, do you think it would be less drama?
I think it's just a different type of drama, right?
Good answer.
Totally different type of drama. With like guys, it's like I don't even know how to explain it with guy drama. What's guy drama like? Well, how would you explain
Generally violence.
Nah, I feel like it's more just like
guy drama is like boys posturing up on one another.
Yeah, I think that's like, but that doesn't. Yeah, exactly. Like
it's someone.
This guy's
like
this guy's really hassling me. You know what I mean? Like, and that's. Yeah, like bullying, I guess you could say. But I feel like that even that is like it rarely happens. 'Cause it's kind of like brotherhoodish. Like that's what I mean. It's like the drama. It's not so. I wouldn't even consider it like that dramatic until like the extremes. That when it happens, right? When it happens, it could possibly be more dramatic. But honestly, in my experience working at a restaurant, dude, like it is by far the most dramatic. Like I've had girls like, they work together, they're friends for a second, and then the moment they're both competing for a guy or just one of their exes comes into the restaurant to eat, or literally the list goes on and on and on. And they like, there's always something every day. It's never just like a chill, we just got the job done today kind of day. It's like it's like you said, like I said, that I think there's 2 other guys I work with in the entire front of house staff, anyways. Mm-hmm. So like, yeah, it can be pretty. And those guys don't bring drama. Like they don't come to work and they're not like, oh man, like had a rough day, my boyfriend. And one of my girlfriend's like haggling me, and that does happen too, though. Yeah. I mean, there's always gonna be drama, especially at like in an open place where everybody's talking all the time and like talking to people and. And that's another thing, drama too, because it's not just the girls that work there or the like the guys that work there, it's like everybody who comes into the restaurant that I talk to as well, right? So it's like when I go to talk to a table, it's like, oh, how's life, right? And then if it's not going good, you know, you're gonna hear about that. You know, I get lots of regulars and everything. So, but that's kind of part of the reason I like the job too, right? Like I love going into work every day because like you get to hear like all sorts of stuff. And, you know, I guess I do like drama, but like I said, I get enough of it at work. I don't want it in my fucking movies. I like to watch like Vikings like killing each other and like, you know, strategic plans of like military stuff. And like, I love that kind of stuff. And big grand stories that are like fantastical is like, it gets me out of this reality. And I think that's what movies were supposed to be. And that's why I think people hate, like what you were saying, that's why people hate the cinematography of now because, you know,
I wouldn't say cinematography. I'd say
sorry,
cinema.
not cinematography, but like cinema now. Sorry, I should just say cinema. I think that's why people hate cinema now is because every single movie that you've watched, especially coming out of Hollywood, has some sort of grand message or like, but it's not only is it like a grand message, it's like something that's politically relevant or like, you know, it always tries to bring you into the news that's like of today, right? And it's always trying to like relate to that. And when you're like watching something, I feel like a movie or something, you're looking to get out of that, right? You don't want that kind of shit in your movie because you're like, man, I just wanted to escape all this reality we're in now. Like, or at least that's what I think, especially when it comes to fantasy, especially when it comes to like fiction. Like, why are we bringing in like politically
topics
relevant
or political points or like any just ideology based?
Yeah, ideology basically. Instead of just showing like like a real scene. I mean, like people don't really. I feel like that doesn't happen as much where like I like the way they do it anyways. It just doesn't happen like that in real life. There's going to be mean people that say like mean things that's going to be funny to some people and it's going to offend other people. But that's reality. People do it all the fucking time. And if you can't have that in your movie's not realistic.
All right, well, I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent too on this topic just because I got a couple things to say. So like with what happened last night in Will Smith and Chris Rock, you had someone come up on stage on national television. Like, I mean, no one really watches the Oscars anymore, but you have someone commit an assault, like legitimately. If Chris Rock, like if it wasn't scripted or whatever, you have someone commit an assault, then proceeds to go on to win the Oscar and receive a standing ovation, in which that speech he says he's a fierce defender of his family and love will make you do crazy things. Now, that's very paraphrased and I understand like where Will's coming from in the sense that like, yeah, you're defending your wife and stuff, but like because someone makes a joke about your wife doesn't give you the right to go up and absolutely slap them.
I'm totally against what he said. I think that's ridiculous. I think like Chris Rock is a comedian and he has free reign to make fun of whatever the fuck he wants, in my opinion, right? Like I think all comedians should have that like breathing room, to be honest.
Well, exactly. The point of the matter is though he got a standing ovation after that speech.
Doesn't surprise me with that crowd. Doesn't surprise me.
Like the things that go on in Hollywood, and like here's my big gripe is, like you said prior, is we have all these like policies and agendas, and we've gotten away from like actually making good stories.
But I think in the early 90s, 80s, 90s, like 2000, early 2000s, like that was when the film industry was just booming. So if Harvey Weinstein or not, like the film industry was booming at its max. Like you could get rid of Harvey, nobody even fucking noticed. I didn't even know this guy existed until all
There's a lot of movies though.
Yeah, but get rid of him. Somebody's gonna take his position.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Like you could have and let's not just go off on a stupid tangent about that, but like, yeah, it's the reason he got excused is because he was in the position he was in, right? Like it wasn't like, and he got excused. Let's be clear about that, dude.
He got away with it for a long time. It's not like it was a
secret, all right? These like everybody fucking knew about this guy, and they just like brushed it on the rug. This is why I hate Hollywood, right? Like everybody had no backbone, which I mean, it's hard to have a backbone when somebody holds your whole fucking career in their hand. But that was because people didn't hold people accountable, which is exactly what's happening with this Will Smith thing, right? Nobody's holding Will Smith accountable for fucking slapping Chris Rock in the face, and the only one who can is Chris. But like, he's not gonna do it because like, holy fuck, you're gonna go take Will Smith to court for a fucking assault? Like, yeah, right.
Well, and how lucky did the Oscars get in the fact, and you could go on this.
Oh yeah, Oscars is bombed right now. Nobody fucking watches worth ratings ever. Will Smith, the most famous of everybody, even who showed up, probably goes slaps the second most fucking famous person who probably showed up, or at least that I could.
Well, there's a little bit more. You can make that argument, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
Well, I like either way. Like at least I know those names, right? Like half the people there now, I don't. I could.
We're 90s babies, so Chris and Will Smith are big names to us, but Chris Rock nowadays is a little bit in the back end.
So, I remember Chris Rock was in Die Hard, the first one, right? Like as the.
Oh fuck, I can't.
I'm
remember.
almost certain he was.
Hey, Kale. Look that up. Was Chris Rock in the first Die Hard?
He was. I think he was the maybe that.
No, because I remember Samuel L. Jackson was in one. Is that who you're thinking of?
No fucking way. I'm sure it was Chris Rock, but maybe
the first one. Like you're talking the Christmas Die Hard.
The Christmas fucking Die Hard. Yeah.
Was he like a cameo spot?
I'm pretty sure he was the taxi driver. Or, I mean the limo driver.
I mean it wouldn't surprise me. Token fucking black guy in a cab.
Oh dude, exactly. And he played it like flawless. I think. Can you get the?
Sam,
Was and
that
the first one?
No, it wasn't. It was in the, I believe, the third one.
Well, Sam Jackson was in the first one.
Okay, so
the
it was
first
him.
one.
Must have been him then.
I thought he was no.
What did he play?
I thought he was in the.
Was he the
third
limo
one.
driver? Kill.
Let me check this.
I think Kale's wrong. I think
Either
I'm
way,
right.
we're getting all fun.
But
back here.
what I was gonna say where the Oscars really got lucky is not even like sure the viewership went up, but. Like, picture how that interaction exchanged. Will went up there, bitch slapped him, walked off, nothing happened. Chris was a consummate professional, took that fucking hit, and kept moving.
How do you
but, like,
afterwards?
Picture if Chris understood Will's fucking body language and, like, blocked it, and they got into a full fist fight, right? Like, picture what could have happened, right?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like, picture if Chris knows that body, like, he knew what was going to happen, and he blocked it, and they got in a fist fight up there. Or say, like, he throws the first punch. Like, there could have been way worse things that would have happened, right?
Oh, it could have been fucking wild.
Yeah, it could have been buck. Like, we could have seen like fucking some real shit happen there. But I mean, I would love to see Will Smith.
So he gets slapped, all right? So he gets slapped, and he's hosting it, right? So like, you get slapped in the fucking face by this guy you just made a joke about, and so you're like kind of shocked, obviously. Does he just go back to doing his thing? And
that is a good question. I didn't even like look into like how it would have been actually interesting to see how he went about the rest of the night.
The next award is going out to you, buddy. And you're like, you just like got a red face, pissed off a little bit. Or did he give Will Smith his fucking award? Like, did he do it when he was getting his award? Like, that's
all good questions, but the thing is, Dusty,
see, I'm already getting sucked in. I remember looking at Facebook this morning.
I don't give a fuck about the Oscars, so I'm not gonna watch it
this morning, and that's exactly the feeling I got. I was like, oh no, I'm skipping out on this fucking story. But then you brought it up, so I was like, okay.
We had to go over it because it was big news, and
that's right.
But anyway, I think we're gonna move on here.
Yeah, let's get out of this. I hate Hollywood.
You want to do UFC or where do you want to go?
Yeah, really anything. I think that it segues into UFC. Like, I think we should talk about like
think
sucker punches in general,
violence in the public, nationally televised violence goes in the UFC.
So Kobe's eating at that steak dinner place, right? Kobe Covington, if for those of you who don't know, he's a second welterweight, probably like
number two, number one welterweight in the world to the champ.
Yeah.
If you talking like for people, he's the second best welterweight in the world.
He's the second best welterweight in the world as it stands right now. Anyways, he's eating steak dinner with the Nelk boys, and then fucking Jorge Masvidal comes from nowhere, hoodie on, mask on, yeah, and just starts. I think he's sucking him a couple times, right? I don't know if he was actually eating dinner. He's just walking out of the dinner place because like kind of story's a little cloudy on that front, but. What is your perspective on that? Like, you know what I mean? Like, he just lost, and he just beat Jorge up, like, just, like, 2 weeks ago, right? 25 minutes. Jorge had to, like, make an impression, and Kobe just dominated him the whole time except for, like, one moment in the fight where he gets, like, almost dropped. But, Jorge can't capitalize. Then he just gets dominated again for the rest of the fight. And then, most times guys, like, hug, embrace, are, like, all cool after. Like, this was not the fucking case. They fucking hate each other. They're still, like, just choked, right?
And to like preface that, prior, like if you don't follow UFC, prior to the build-up of that fight, these two were literally best friends, lived together, trained together. Like
it's actually a pretty wild story.
Jorge was like he had been like Masvidal goes way back to the fight. Like he was fighting with Kimbo Slice in the old like YouTube days where you had the backyard brawls. So Jorge was already a professional at the time, and Colby was getting out of college wrestling, and they ended up like living together, and basically they were best of friends. And then as fame took hold of kind of both of them, Colby was more of the, I guess,
slow rise.
Colby was a very slow rise compared to George, but his happened before George.
I guess they were both kind of like that because when Colby was in Brazil,
Colby won the interim belt and like fucking did his like promo in Brazil. I'm not going to repeat what he said about Brazilians. I guess like Chael Sonnen made a good quote. It's like technically not racist because you're going against a nation, not a race, but it is pretty bad.
It's I mean, it's exactly what he needed to do because he wasn't excited. His fight style wasn't that exciting back then. He needed to mix it up. Fair enough. All the power to him because, you know, he took like a WWE stance on it. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of fake, but it's like, it's just I call it clowning, right? You like whatever you have in you, you just, amp it. You amp it to like fucking 20 to 100%. To 130%, right? And it's almost outside of who you actually are as a person, just day to day. And you can tell that's definitely the case with Colby. And like,
it's funny to watch him like read his, like the one thing I will say is like whoever is the next Colby Covington is going to blow him out of the water because God damn it, does he stutter a lot for scripted scripted lines? Like when he gets frazzled.
I think that's what it is. It's the scripted lines, right? But he has so many of them, like Kamaru.
There's someone writing for him, 100%. There's someone writing.
I really like him, but I hate how it ended. Like I hate that Jorge tracks this guy down while he's eating dinner with the Milk Boys and stuff, and just like sucker punches him. And I'm totally against sucker punches. I think that they're so sleazy. I mean, people die from being sucker punched, man. You can if you sucker punch them, right? Like, so it's like I'm watching Facebook. I'm reading these like comments, and everybody's like, "Oh, he talked about his kids or something like that." And you know, he didn't actually talk about his kids. I guess he did call him a bad father.
He crossed the line,
but he didn't. But I don't think he crossed that much of a line. Telling somebody they're a shit father because he was friends with him, right? And fucking, he's cheating on his girlfriend. He's blah 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 blah. And you're just like Kobe's just going to call it how it is, right? And he's being his clownish self, so he's going to just amp it, right? So he's like, you're just a deadbeat dad. And, you know, just goes into it because he's like trying to get under Jorge's skin. They're about to fight. Like, that's the fight game, right? Jorge said he was going to extinguish fucking Askren's bloodline, right? And then he had to go back and clarify that he just meant his future kids, not his current kids. And you're like, okay, at this point, who fucking cares?
Yeah,
right? Like,
no.
If you're going to be talking shit, Kobe should be able to talk, and I'm not defending Kobe. Like, I mean, it's hard to, just stand but to me, they're both kind of, annoying individuals. But if I were to take if I were to have to deal with one or the other, I'm definitely gonna say Kobe because at least Kobe has some sort of like limit, right? Whereas like Jorge's that type of guy where it's like you can say bad shit to him, but he's the one who doesn't think about consequences, right? Like a lot of these, like, and that's just typical in some fighters. If you don't think about your consequences, go on. Sorry.
He pretty well threw away one of the biggest UFC contracts out there if he gets charged.
I don't think it's going to come to that. I really don't. But I do think that like people like that are unhinged and like, and they're just willing to sucker punch money without thinking of any consequences are just like, they're kind of I think it's scummy. Like, I think it's really scummy. I think he lost a lot of fans, me being one of them, because I really liked Jorge. I thought he was like a real dude. And like the Diaz brothers. This is a perfect example. Diaz brothers, they're not like sucker punching people with their hoods up and their masks on when they can't see them. They're like they like announce themselves when they walk into a room. They got smack talk. They like full out walk forward.
They almost trap you into a fucking fight.
Exactly. They'll try to fight you, but at least you see them and they see you, right? Yeah. Like they know it. They're like, it's a fair playing field at this point. We're like, we both see each other. Let's go. Jorge, like, he just lost a fight, so it makes it even more like cowardly. Is that he like puts a hood on, puts his mask on. There's no way Kobe can defend this at all. He just comes up behind him and starts sucker punching him, right? Like. That is like, you just like, people have, if somebody has no idea you're doing that, like, of course you're going to get a few strikes like, it shouldn't make you feel tough. But that's how Jorge made it portrayed. He's like, you said it was on site. That's on site. I was like, Kobe didn't even see you, dude. You had your mask up. Like, maybe it's on site for you. And I don't know. I get it. But it's more of like a gangster thing.
Here's a fun little tack on it. What if Jorge had like viciously knocked out Colby and then attacked him after? Like, had already knocked him the fuck out. Colby's all like, bummed from the fight, losing the fight. Jorge just shows up in a mask and absolutely fucking
honestly,
clocks
after
him.
seeing that, it wouldn't fucking surprise me, dude, because I bet Kobe would still be talking trash. I think he'd be talking worse trash at the end of the fight if he lost than if he had won.
My take on it is this. I think that, like, me personally, I agree that like modern day fighting, there really isn't a line when it comes to promo. I mean, realistically,
remember Conor?
Well,
Conor was way worse.
Yeah, but the thing is Conor, like, there is a line, but there isn't a line. So, like, the line before, like, if this happened 10 years ago, there would be no charges and everyone would be like, good for you, because
I think it just depends on the person.
Well,
right?
But the way our society is nowadays is everything's online. Like, Colby's with the Nelk boys. Those guys are social media heroes. They're gonna record anything that they're gonna be able to monetize. You better believe me, Masvidal suckering Colby and them being there when they get to call the cops.
There's something
they're gonna monetize it, right?
There, like, is that just me?
It's a little bit, but
because like how the
here's my take though. The thing is that there is a line. Like, their line was religion, family, right, and personal relationships. Those are generally the three that you used to stay away from. Conor kind of broke that, and it pays. But the thing is, though, is that still the line isn't there, but it is still there for some people. So a guy like Khabib Nurmagomedov, if you talk about his religion and his wife, which he values more than.
Are you talking about that post that?
Well, no.
Just all this?
No. Just wait.
I think that was Ali.
But
Aziz, I think that Aziz should get off old Khabib's Facebook profile.
Yeah, he needs to get off more than just a Facebook profile. But like, what I'm saying is, though, is a guy like Khabib, you got to understand who you're talking to. If you talk about his religion and his wife, he's gonna want to fucking tear your head off. If you talk about George Masvidal being a deadbeat dad. This is a guy that grew up with Kimbo Slice in backyards fucking beating skulls in.
I'm not surprised.
You got to expect that's going to happen. You lose your fight, then you go to commit assault, same as Will Smith. They're in the same house right now. You commit assault on someone who easily can charge you, and like, just because you wear a mask and a hood, you think you're going to get away with it. And in Florida, that ups the charges.
Oh man, that I think it should be upped. I think that
because you're concealing your identity,
just
right?
Think about this. Israel Adesanya's friend, remember that? Like, his friend got killed from a sucker punch.
Yeah, 100% he did.
Like, it's not a game at a certain point. Like, you could end careers with that stuff. You can end somebody's just life in general, right? So it's like, oh man, did he mess up? Like, oh man. The more you think about, whenever it all comes into play, like, the more you think about it, the things that could have happened, obviously it stacks up. So like, we won't go there, but like, he's on thin ice, obviously. I wonder what's going to happen with it. I honestly think they're going to find a way to like get Kobe to like chill out, the UFC. I think they're going to be like, Kobe, just like chill out. He's mad he lost, whatever.
The thing is, though, is if Kobe doesn't if Kobe doesn't press charges, the state of Florida still can.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
The thing is with with the fact that he's masked up and hooded, like, yes, he's a celebrity. There's probably a little bit of pull there that he could, or even like, if worst comes to worst, Dana White doesn't want to lose out on an investment. Like, there might be some pull there, but the state of Florida could just as easily charge him as Colby can.
Oh yeah.
So like, his career.
In my experience, is that the same rules in fucking Alberta, Canada? Because holy fuck, I got sucker punched like two weeks ago at work.
This is Northern Alberta, bud. If you get sucker punched,
the cop came up and he's like, "Hey, do you want to press charges?" And I was like, "So what's the process with that?" And he's like, "Oh well, it's gonna be about a year. We're gonna go take the video cameras, gonna see what happened." And then, you're going to go to court, and then you're going to testify against this guy. And I was like, I'm going to stop you right there, dude. I don't want to do any of that. Like, this was like 5 minutes of my life. And this was at work. Like, he just punched me. I'm the manager. I had to get him out of there. And it wasn't even the guy I was having a dispute with. It was his friend. He just came out of nowhere and hit me. And then they both left, right? And so I'm like, talking to the cop there after he had arrested the other guy who suckered me, actually just ran off down the alley or whatever. But cop's like, do you want to charge him? And we got this one guy. We'll be able to find out who the other guy is. And like, you can go through all this like stuff. And I was like, no, just tell them that they're never allowed back here. And, you know, leave it at that. And it was because, you know, I wished in my head that I was like, man, fucking, why can't you guys charge him? Like, I don't want to. I mean, I'll go and testify if you guys are willing to do all this work, but it sounded like I'm going to have to be the one to pay for the lawyers, pay for all this shit. Like, it just sounded like a complete fucking nightmare. So it just, like, totally turned me off from, like, going to chase justice for, like, me, but probably other people in the future, because that was crazy. Like, this guy had just totally...
Graham Perry needs a vigilante, Dusty.
No.
Seek your own justice.
No. You're fucking right, dude.
The northern chimp of Alberta.
Yeah, I would stay far away from that. Like, just getting into those situations is just a bad idea in the first place. Like, I don't know how some people like that adrenaline, putting themselves in that situation, or just having the... I've never understood this, even like in high school at those pits parties and like all those other parties when you see like crazy shit go down and people are like you'll have like 4 guys punching one dude. Like, I was never the guy to walk in and like punch somebody while they're already in the midst of like a combat with someone else. It just felt so dishonorable, so cowardly. Like, if I'm gonna fight somebody, I first off I have an actual problem with them probably, and then second off I'm gonna make sure they know who's beating them up, and it's not gonna be because of any cheap shit. It's because I'm better than them, and I'm stronger than them, and I'm willing to put I care that much to beat them, right?
My nut sack is bigger than them.
And then if they're stronger or tougher than me, then I'm probably just gonna avoid the whole confrontation, because, like, you know what I mean? And, you know, because that's just the case.
Let's talk about UFC 273.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Let's talk about UFC 273. What a fucking card! Like, our main event is gonna be that Korean Zombie versus Volkanovski, yeah.
So just to go through that,
are you pissed that Max is out?
No, I'm not. I think that it was smart of the UFC to not pick Max after that Yair fight.
Well, no, I think Max is injured. I think that's why he couldn't do it.
Well,
right?
exactly, that's why.
Oh, yeah.
But like,
yeah.
he went through a fucking war in that fight, and don't get me wrong, Volkanovski did with Ortega, but not the same type of war, and in it by any means of the stretch. I don't mind Korean Zombie getting.
Well, he just won his last fight against Danny Ige. Danny Ige was streaking, and Danny Ige looked really good. Like, he had that knockout within like 7 seconds before that, or 8 seconds.
It's a good diversity ratio for Volkanovski.
And it kind of reminds me of like Michael Bisping.
Diversity by race.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like when Michael Bisping got that shot for the title.
Yeah,
because like Korean Zombie's been a staple in that division for so long. He's done really well, won and lost against all just amazing opponents. And he's been dominant, and then he had that one little hiccup with Ortega, right? Like, he was on a streak there. He was almost there.
Yeah,
so
he ran into a fucking wall. That was Ortega.
Yeah. But I think stylistically, it was just a bad matchup for Zombie. Like, it's not like he got finished, right? He didn't get finished in that fight.
No.
Exactly. So he didn't get finished, but he got beat up the whole time. And it's because Ortega's long, and Zombie likes when people like come into him and then he can fight. So that's why I think it's actually he will do better against Volkanovski than he did Ortega for when they are fighting. Though I think Volkanovski has much better chance of actually finishing him. But I do think that the exchanges are going to be a lot more even, because where Ortega and Zombie were fighting is like, none of the exchanges were even. Like, it was Ortega, just getting the best of them, backing off, just picking them apart the whole time. Whereas this one, I think Volkanovski is going to give him those opportunities to get some stuff in. And I do think that's like, and I think there's a larger puncher's chance in this one than there was in that Ortega's fight. Because like,
yeah, I agree with that.
Zombie has some fucking hard hands. Like, if he can get inside, if he can get that stuff done, he's devastating. Like, I did not think that. I thought he was gonna get rolled by Danny Ige, because Danny Ige was streaking. He'd been training really hard. You could just see it. He had a really good camp. You know, he was really streaking, and Zombie just shut it down hard, right? And it's because of his like strength, because of his like. And I just don't know how. Volkanovski's going to compare to that. I'm very actually interested in the matchup. I think it's going to be pretty exciting.
Are you fucking sleeping on my boy Volk? Is that what you're?
No. I like Volk. I've been following Volk. Volk's my boy too. Like if I'm rooting for Volk, but it wouldn't make me sad if the zombie like pulled off some fucking amazing victory. Like I wouldn't be like, oh dang. I'd be like, man, I power to him, and it'd be amazing. It's kind of like it's kind of how I felt with like the Dustin Poirier, new lightweight champion there.
Charles Oliveira.
Yeah, Charles Oliveira.
We're gonna get to that after this.
I was like, I did not want Charles to win. I really wanted Dustin to win that fight, but like as the fight progressed, and then when Charles won, I was like, man, power to him, man.
See,
like,
I'm all Charlie Olives, but okay, we can't. We got to keep going on this card. So we'll save that for one after. My take on the fight, I think Volk's pressure and his ground game and just overall his pressure, I think he's going to break Zombie. I do agree with you in the sense that he's going to give Zombie more chances, but Volk's pressure is something else. Like, and to people that don't follow the UFC, Volkanovski is, I believe, 5'5", 5'6", something around there.
Yeah.
He fights at 145 pounds featherweight division. He used to play rugby at 248 pounds.
It couldn't have been 248.
Don't get me wrong.
I can see like 200, 205.
I've seen the pictures of him.
He's a beefy boy.
He's a fucking beefy boy.
But I think it's like 205. You're talking like heavyweight, dude.
I know, but like I've seen small guys weigh 200, like a thick boy.
248 though, dude. That's fucking.
I've seen it. Dude. I've seen it. I have. But the thing, I agree with you. It's a little flonky to like say
200. I mean, somewhere around that.
I'm not saying it's unbelievable though. Like if you said Volk, like in his rugby days was just crushing ice cream sandos on the daily.
Dude, he wasn't that
bulking.
like I saw him. He's like he was a thick boy, but like think about how much he would have to cut, how much weight he would have lost in all that.
100 pounds over a long time, which actually isn't that
over 100 pounds. That's like 125.
No, he
pounds.
fights it'd be less than 100. His walking around weight, because he fights at 145, right? So 248, you got 103 pounds there.
Jesus Christ, you're still talking about a lot of weight.
It would be like his walking around weight, he would have had to lose 80 pounds to like probably 80 to 70 pounds naturally, and then the other...
We'd have to go back and check the tape, because I do think that he mentions how much he weighed.
To Volkanovski's team, if we could get you to send us the stats, all the recorded findings on his rugby career, we'd really appreciate that. Co-main event. Peter Yan, Aljamain Sterling. Thoughts on the fight? Go.
Yeah, I'm all for. I think Peter Yan's gonna win, but I don't think it's gonna be as one-sided as everybody else thinks. I think that
it's a fair point.
Aljamain showed in the first fight, like in the first round, anyways, that he had some sort of advantage on the feet. I feel like he was. Just because of the sheer length of him compared to Peter Yan, and like he's also like stronger, I think, or like pretty strong for like somebody that lengthy in the division, and that's what like gives him a huge advantage over a lot of people. That's why he's like I think he's number one, right? Like he's got to be, right? Or I mean, he's champion, but
yeah, we all forget that he's champion.
I always forget that.
Yeah, because everyone's just like Peter Yan's the baddest man in the fucking division.
But I mean, everybody's thinking, that's what this fight is. That's what everybody thinks that knows anything about MMA right now is that Peter Yan is the unofficial champion, and then we got the pretender. Aljamain Sterling, which is the reason,
The Pretender's a good name for him.
Yeah, that's a thing, right? Like, what is his actual name? Funkmaster, right? Funkmaster, that's what it is.
More like fucking crybaby. Like,
if anybody had like trampled their reputation, you could say, because like, going into that fight, I think a lot of people had Aljamain winning. Like a lot of people were like high on Aljamain.
Going into that fight, the hype was real for Aljo, and I was part of that train. Like I really enjoyed Peter Yan. I knew he was a fucking monster, especially because he was coming off that win with Jose Aldo. And no, man, like Aljo had some serious hype. He had dominated, like when he finished Sandhagen, like that was huge.
So fast too, first round.
Very quick. Like
got him. That's the thing, right? But there's so many things in that first fight that I don't think are going to be in the second fight. For one, like I don't think Aljo was lying when he said the canvas was really slippery. Like I really
that was a problem that night. Like throughout multiple fights, like
yeah,
that was
people
brought
were
up
slipping
even
on it. But I mean, obviously
fight.
Peter Yan has to deal with that too. I just think when you're a shorter, compact, more balanced fighter, it's not going to be. I don't think it's going to affect you as much as a lengthy guy.
Or hear me out. Peter Yan's a fucking savage from Siberia that fucking trains in snow, any kind of weather, and when you're fighting, you're not worrying about how slippery the old canvas is. You're worried about fucking murdering a human.
No, 100%. Like I that's it's a silly excuse. It's really not. It's not one at all. I'm just saying like there's certain like there's other things. I just feel like the first fight was like kind of, and like I said, Aljo did have injuries. Like he had some significant.
I agree with that.
Like he had like a spinal injury, which like was like clear. Like he got a huge surgery on it, and that's why I was thinking like, is he going to be any good in this fight? Because apparently you lose like all your strength after a surgery like that, like a lot of it, and so he would have or has to have regained his strength if he's confident enough to come back. Because like who was talking on it? I think it was on like it was on Ariel Helwani. Well, you know, he was talking to somebody, but they gave him the inside scoop kind of about like them having a friend that got the same surgery as Aljo, and it like apparently it takes a huge toll. They don't come back nearly as good, but he's the champion. So
what was the full extent of his surgery?
It was like a spinal injury.
Did he get discs fused though?
Yeah, he had to get like a disc fused.
See, that's fucking bad.
Back of his neck
like,
or something. Yeah.
If that is the case, like that.
And he went into the fight with the injury, and the reason why he didn't get it fixed was like because it's such a like intensive recovery, and that's why he's been gone for so long. And so I do think that the Aljo that shows up, if he's like 100% good to go again, and he's like, it could be really good or it could be really bad. Like I could see that happening too, because there's just so many variables in this this upcoming fight when you start thinking about it. But then again, like, does it even matter? Even if he was 100%, Peter Yan is so good, and we saw that against him against Sandhagen. Like Sandhagen was on a tear. He was like, and like. You could argue that Peter Yan is like his perfect victim type, like somebody who likes to wrestle, somebody who's like shorter that he can like jump flying.
Peter Yan beat Sandhagen at his own game, which is 100%.
The striking
terrifying.
Was crazy. Like the masterclass he put on in that fight, like you got to think like someone like Peter Yan is getting so much better every day because you see him doing it, right?
He has the like, and like here's something I've said since like the beginning of like me becoming a fan of MMA. Anyone like that's from that part of the world or comes from like a place where there isn't like that, like, yeah, there's poverty in the United States, there's poverty in Canada, there's poverty in like developed countries, but it's not the same as poverty or like normal day living in, I'm not even going to try and pronounce where he's from because it's so far up north, but like you think of like places like Brazil, any of these places where you're coming from where you like fighting's all you have. You fight for, like the saying is like there's a difference when you're fighting for food. Right, and Peter Yan is a guy that you could put in that classification. At the start, he was fighting for food, and Aljamain.
I actually don't know his back history that well. Like
no, like I'm not saying like he came from like extreme poverty, but he's not coming from Canada or the U.S. kind of like he's up in the middle of nowhere. They had one sports gym, right?
Oh yeah.
I know a little of the background. Like a lot of his training was outdoors. Like he's. Like it's not like rugged. He doesn't have access to an NCAA college, right?
And you just got to think about like the mentality of like everybody there, like how like.
Yeah, well, it's like look at the Dagestanis, like the proof's in the pudding. Like if that's all you have to like entertain yourself and like to lose yourself in, because that's really like kind of like your only option. It's just a different mindset. I'm not saying it's better.
And I think the fact that they're national sport, you just have to think about like national sports of places, and like in places like Dagestan and stuff like that, it's like wrestling, right? They got a gym. Everybody likes
Sambo,
to wrestle.
yeah.
And Sambo. And, like, so you got to think, like, if you're growing up, imagine if instead of hockey, you're doing fucking Sambo every day. Like, you know.
I wish it was like that.
Yeah, so many people in North America in general go into MMA late, and it's after some sort of other sports career, right? Like, it'll be, like, sometimes it's not that late. Like, it'll be, like, 20s and stuff, but it's a little bit more rare, I would say, for like athletes like 16 and stuff to be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be an MMA fighter. Like there's a few at a gym, but it's like pretty rare.
100%, and like that kind of comes back into my point of like, I just think Yan has a different type of mentality going into this. Aljamain's got a lot more to prove. 100%. Like everyone thinks Peter Yan's a champ. Everyone's going in expecting Peter Yan to win. Aljo has the skills to beat him 100%, like very
maybe
clearly,
it's
but
a puncher's chance too, and like everything.
puncher's chance, but also like in the fact that that if he has a fused disc, that's bad.
Yeah,
Like like any neck surgery, like Peter Yan's, he's gonna crank that thing as hard as he freaking can.
Well, we'll see. We will see. I think that it's gonna be a good one. I got Peter Yan for it though. Yeah, you're right. I think Peter Yan all the way.
I think so too. I think betting wise, you're probably pretty good on Aljo.
I wonder what the odds are. I haven't checked yet, but I will.
Yeah, we'll get on that. But Aljo, because Aljo's going to be clearly the underdog going into it, just off like kind of a popularity
There's
thing.
no way he's going.
And he's not that a huge underdog. I wouldn't call him that.
I wonder if it's going to be that big. Like I could see it being pretty significant. Like, but
I'll look it up.
When the leading up to the fight, we'll get a good idea of like how good of shape is he really in. He always seems to be in really great shape, Aljo. So if anybody could recover something like this, it's definitely someone like him. So
he also trains with savages, man. Like Matt Serra's gym, those New Jersey boys, they don't fuck around. Like that Merab Davashvili, sorry for butchering the name, but that guy's a fucking savage. And if you're training with him, like you're gonna get, I think, better wrestling than what Jan's gonna throw at you.
You think so? Better?
Yeah.
Yeah, you might be right because
Merab's bigger too.
I believe that
right?
Peter Yan now is actually training Muay Thai, right? Isn't he like in like that Muay Thai gym?
Yeah, no, to me, I'm not even worried about the wrestling aspect of like Peter Yan going into it. But like you also got to think too, like Peter Yan tripped. Like that was the one thing that was a glaring thing in the first fight is Peter Yan had his way in the grappling exchange on the feet.
Yeah, like that first fight, like he stuff.
Yeah, he tripped. He had perfect foot placement. He caught Aljo probably 3 times, I think.
Yeah, just like off-footing and just tripping him up.
There was no wrestling involved. It was just pure like balance
and just manhandling
technique it made Aljo look like a
those
bitch.
last couple rounds. Like holy.
Let's go to the betting odds.
Yeah, exactly.
So, as of right now, Volkanovski is a minus 875.
Oh, Volkanovski's a pretty big frickin' favorite, too. Holy crap.
And then Korean Zombies plus 530.
Whoa, that's a huge.
And like I predicted, Aljamain Sterling plus 345. Plus Peter Yan minus 520.
That's not like it's bad, but that's
not a bad bet.
But
crazy thing.
Volkanovski versus Zombie, that's crazy.
Here's probably the best bet.
I'm surprised it's that high.
Here's the best bet of the night, though. Gilbert Burns is a plus 335 against Chimaev.
335. Oh, a lot of people have some faith in Chimaev. I thought that was going to be a big one, too.
I honestly thought a minus 500 favorite.
I guess Volkanovski, the respect that guy got on his name now is huge.
Dude, you got to throw respect on that guy's fucking name.
When Ortega had him in that those 2 submissions in that round, that was like the craziest thing. That's one of the coolest moments I've seen in the UFC for that. Like, holy shit.
The last 10 minutes of the Ortega-Volkanovski fight did more for Volk's career than both of the Max Holloway fights combined.
Oh, for sure. Because it was just such a fun fight. And like I think Brian also makes for exciting wind-ups. And I guess the fact that they did the Ultimate Fighter really helped. I think that helped.
Yeah.
And the season was actually pretty good. I thought it was a little too lighthearted, but I used to watch the old ones, so like
old ones are a bit
wish
different.
They were crazy again.
And you had old fucking Roy Nelson and Matt Mitrione.
Yeah. Oh well, the problem too is back in the day when they had those seasons, there'd be like every alcohol sitting in every cupboard that like the UFC was like, we got to make this interesting.
Yeah, they weren't like 100% like the UFC athletes.
Yeah, they were not treating them like this is they were like, whoa, a little bit. This is a reality TV show. We want to get to know you, right? Like, and this other one was like, we want to get to know you, but you're gonna be in a top art facility and like all this stuff. I'm sure there was probably a lot of booze in those houses, but like, if you've watched any of the old ones, you're like, I'm staying away from that shit, right? And you got to think that all these young fighters going into the new Ultimate Fighters are like, I'm coming prepared. I'm coming like, I'm gonna make sure I'm in shape for all this stuff. I'm gonna be able to cut weight. And like they know they're gonna be running a shitload. Like that was the funniest part about like some of those old UFC, like the Ultimate Fighter episodes. Is like guys who come into those seasons and they're just like, oh yeah, I'm just drinking, just having a drink here. It's like the day before the fight, they're just like getting wasted, and like holy man, or when they had to run and stuff, like half of them came and there's no way they were gonna cut the weight. Like those episodes were so funny, man.
I mean, yeah, it's just the way the sport's evolved. But UFC's on such it's kind of like a 5x multiplier, I find, because its transition came later, because it didn't start till later, right? So when it evolved, like hockey, baseball, football, basketball, they've all done this evolution of the sport over a very significant amount of time, while the UFC's been put in an atmosphere in the future where you have social media, you have access, you have the ability to really advance the stages of your sport very quickly, just based on knowledge sharing, media, like the ability to just share information in general. So in the 20 years, we've seen
massive growth.
Literally street fighters and bar brawlers turn into world-class fucking athletes that are good at everything, when it used to just be certain specialists versus each other. And then
like you could have one boxing glove on it.
Yeah. And people call George St. Pierre the greatest of all time, which is a perfect, you could definitely make that argument in my opinion. That's probably who I would have to pick if I had to pick one.
Really?
But
I'm thinking John Jones.
No,
man.
That's fair. I just go off kind of how you impact the sport in total. Like John Jones is a fucking shit person.
Yeah.
So I go GSP.
Yeah, well, we don't know.
That's a different conversation. But what I'm saying is, it's funny that GSP is the GOAT to me in a way, because he's really the first modern UFC fighter.
Oh yeah, definitely.
He is the first modern
and
guy.
Probably the most classy one.
Oh yeah, no, he was like Gretzky. He just came into the game and changed it, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So he said, the greatest of all time isn't born yet, because everyone's on the shoulders of giants, right?
Yeah, it's a good quote.
It's a really good quote from GSP.
Is that what he said?
Yeah,
that was actually his
he
quote?
said that on the Lex Friedman podcast.
Oh, that's really cool.
Check out Lex Friedman podcast. Very good. Lex, you ever want to come on? But yeah, I guess we got to move on to the next one before we go off to a tangent. Jesus Christ. First time we're just talking about everything and anything.
Yeah, no doubt.
Third fight. Biggest fight of the night, in my opinion.
Okay.
Khamzat Chimaev versus Gilbert Durinho Burns.
Oh, man. Hazmat, dude. I'm all for this dude. He is a fucking savage. That's a one guy he just looks like a fighter, and he just his aura, I'm going to call it an aura, is so intimidating. So the way he is and how aggressive he comes into every single fight, and I think it's just it's unparalleled in in any division, right? I think that's why he likes John Jones so much too, is because look at early John Jones was a savage too, man. The way he finished guys back in the day was crazy, and I think Hazmat has that same little fire inside, even probably more so. And I don't know. I don't see him losing it anytime soon. That's for sure.
I don't either. And I think that's a really valid point you brought up, because you're right. Jones at the start, before the unraveling of his personal life and that kind of bleeding into his game, he was a fucking killer.
Creative,
and a finisher. It was that first generation of fighters he went up against, and there was really prime John Jones. I don't think there's a human on the planet that could have stopped him.
No way.
Not in a UFC cage under those rules.
His physical ability and how just for his stature and everything.
Well, he's Tarantula 2.0.
Nobody could match it. The length, his size, where the muscle was, and the technique. It was just so much ahead of everybody in the game, and it still might be. We have no idea, right? He's never ever lost. I don't care about the Matt Hamill thing.
I beg to differ.
Speaking of dead people, yeah.
I don't 12-6 elbow. Everyone knows it's a fucking joke, but I'm one of the people that think that Dominic Reyes won that fight.
Oh, you're going. Oh yeah, Dominic. Yeah,
I think he did. I think he took the belt from the champ. I think that he might have probably not made a good enough argument to actually take the belt from Jones.
But that's not how sports. Not this is well. Technically, I don't think that's how.
If we're going by there's an unwritten rule. It's like playoff fucking hockey, right? Playoff hockey. the stick work becomes a lot more. Like, boys are getting slashed, they're getting, like it's a lot rougher, meaner game, and the refs just know to let it go. When it's a UFC championship fight, there's an unwritten rule that you got to take the belt from the champ.
I mean, he was pretty damn close.
But
I do think, though, if that fight was like 2 more rounds, Reyes is losing the fight. Like,
I agree. I think John's finished stronger, but Reyes did way more in the total time of the fight. And
if you were actually just to judge it based off of like merit and like how sports should be judged, and if it was like a point game, like Reyes won that fight 100%.
I'm not saying like it's an egregious...
I think it's the only fight you can look back at John's history of fighting people is the most significant one that he's gotten, which was like that GSP one versus what was
Matt
his
Serra?
Yeah, Matt Hendricks.
Oh, Hendricks.
Johnny Hendricks. Yeah.
Oh, Johnny Hendricks. Yeah,
Johnny Hendricks.
Hendricks.
Johnny Hendricks pretty much beat that shit out of St. Pierre that day, and then like
that is a good comparison.
And like that was exactly like this was. It was like, oh man, you don't really deserve that.
It goes effective. Like goes significant
Everybody
striking.
gets one. That's
effective grappling, and then octagon control in that order, right? And in that fight, Dominic Reyes pieced him up with significant strikes
through 3 rounds.
Through 3 rounds, and then Jones won two wrestling
at the end.
Like Jones didn't like he had control, but like significant strikes wise, it's worth way more. And yeah, you can. If to people who are John Jones fans who say that he won the fight, I'm not gonna like not hear you out because it was a close fight.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was definitely a close fight. You can argue it and everything. Mm-hmm. Like I don't. But if you and I weigh on the side of, but I also like I'm totally fine with having John maintain his record. He already got one stolen from him, so might as well just get him one. But
beating people on coke. But anyway, speaking of guys who don't do coke,
now we should get on to Burns.
Okay, so my thoughts on this fight is, I think people are underestimating Gilbert Burns. So
man, everybody's saying that's why he's the only minus 345 or whatever he is.
He's plus 334. So like, here is the thing: is Gilbert Burns is a world champion jiu-jitsu artist. Like, he is unbelievable on the ground. His striking is lights out. And my fear with Chimaev, and like I don't really have, like if Chimaev goes in there and stomps Gilbert Burns in 10 seconds and Gilbert only lands 1 punch on him, I'm not going to be surprised either. But the thing is we all know in UFC, MMA, it's all about your competition. This is a massive jump in competition. It's not a small jump. It's not a medium jump. It's a massive jump. Like Gilbert Burns is a top of the food line or top of the food chain type of fighter. Like
I think that you could be right. You could be right.
Like he's the only one. He's the closest person I've seen getting to knocking out Kamaru Usman.
I just think that Hazmat's the real deal, dude. Like when I see him fight, I'm just like, oh man, he's gonna be a problem for anybody because like the way he does it and how fast he does it is like very impressive because he's going after it. And even like Burns, like who has all this like credential, I don't think he's gonna try to take Burns down. I think he's going in there, take his head off, and I think he will because I don't think Burns' chin is all that great. We don't know how good Chimaev's is, but it obviously doesn't get hit that much because I think he got hit twice in his last 3 fights. So like,
yeah, no, I mean, I think Chimaev's got a fucking chin, and I also do think he's the real deal. Like the stats that he's putting up and how I've never seen a and like the other thing is he is huge for 170.
Yeah, he's a massive guy, right? That's another thing, right? He's a massive guy.
He would be bigger than Kamaru in that fight.
Like he's hanging out with Till all the time, and he looks the exact same size as Till.
Yeah,
and
no,
like, I guess you could say Till used to be a welterweight, but he's pretty big even for.
Like Khamzat could, like, I'm not saying like skill wise, I don't know this yet, but like for size wise, like to be able to like be big enough, he could go up and fight Israel Adesanya 100%.
You could argue though that like even like if just looking at the whole division, you could argue that like Burns might be one of his biggest threats because like the jiu-jitsu, right?
The jiu-jitsu is huge. Yeah, like that's a big good, question
right?
mark.
Like so if he takes him down, like there's this old saying that like jiu-jitsu beats wrestling kind of thing, and like. I could see it because Burns he's really, really, really good at jiu-jitsu because he's like a world champion like twice over or something like that.
Well, and I have to think that that's a big part of Burns' game plan.
But that's why I think
not to go down in the way that he wants it. Like he's obviously not going to just lay down and let Khamzat smash him, but I think if he can control the way that they hit the mat, and that if it's not too of an aggressive attack and Khamzat doesn't come out on top in a dominant position where he can lay ground and pound in, that's got to be part of his game plan. Because if he gets in like full guard, half guard, like even like just getting a couple hooks in and like being able to hold on for a little bit, if he can kind of negate Khamzat's ground and pound, then they're in Gilbert's world.
I think that he should just not rely too much on the jiu-jitsu. He could just like keep it upstanding, because we have Chimaev hasn't been tested that hard on the feet, right? And I think that what might happen, this is what I think is actually going to happen. I think Hazmat's going to come out, and then Burns is going to think he's going for like a takedown, and then Hazmat's absolutely going to fucking light him up, and then he's going to get fucking KO'd. That's what I think. I think Hazmat, and that's what happened to Gerald Mearshart. Like, you can see it when he's backing up in the corner, he's thinking that Chimaev's going to take him down. He's going to put him in the fence. So he goes like this to dodge. He like ducks down to dodge a punch, but it's more to like stop a takedown. And he just gets absolutely blasted right on the chin. And I think that like Chimaev is quick enough. If you watch him just like even train, like he's just a very fast welterweight, like super fast.
A fast, big welterweight.
Yeah, he's he's massive too. So like, he has good reach too. It's not like his reach isn't very long. He's like a massive reach. I think that he's gonna light Burns up. And I've seen Burns' chin. Like, he got knocked out by Kamaru Usman, and like Kamaru's has some pretty good punching power now that he's training with Whitman.
Oh, for sure.
But I when in that fight, I was like, man, I don't know, because Burns couldn't. Like, let's think about this. I mean, Usman's probably pretty good on the ground too, like getting out of stuff. So I don't know. It's hard to match everybody.
Burns
hasn't fought anybody, like you said, he hasn't fought anybody of like a high caliber. Even though I do think Gerald Mearshart is actually really good. It was just there wasn't enough time in that fight to.
Yeah, I think Gerald just got unlucky a lot of it. Yeah. Like that was a really clean punch out of nowhere. Like you don't land those. Like, he sent him to the fucking shadow.
And it just shows how good Hazmat is. I really do think that. Like I think that it's not. No, it shows how afraid everybody is of this guy. Like, he has this aura of like, you know, it's very victorious or already. And so you like, when you walk up to the guy, you're like, fuck, man. Like, and even more so than Conor McGregor, because even when Conor had somewhat of that aura, just like utter confidence. But with Hazmat, he hasn't lost at all yet, right? He hasn't ever been tarnished, and that makes him even scarier. Because like Conor came to the UFC, he was scary because he was lighting everybody up. He was on like a huge win streak, but he also had like this loss way back in the day where he got like choked out. And so like, when you look at Hazmat, you're like, he's never lost. This guy cares so much about winning, and like when you have people like that, it can be pretty scary.
All right, we're gonna move on.
So who do you got though? Let's make that clear for everybody.
Fuck, I didn't want to make that prediction. I've got Khamzat.
Yeah, me too. Khamzat all the way.
All right,
I think that the
for the next couple, I say we do this just for the sake of time, because there's a couple that I think we'll go into a bit, but for the most part, we'll when I say if you want to move on, we can move on from it. Who do you got in Mackenzie Dern and Teresa Torres?
It's a hard one.
It is a hard one
because I think
Dern's my UFC wife, so I'm gonna take her. I love Dern.
Oh yeah, that's right. Well, I'll take Torres just because I do think Tisha Torres, right? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I probably butchered her name. I'm sorry. Don't beat me up, lady.
Yeah. Or anyways, Torres, I think she probably has it. She has a pretty good like kicking game and punching game, which I think is a little bit better than Mackenzie's. But Mackenzie Dern's apparently been practicing a shitload of striking, and she's lengthy, and she's definitely higher caliber than Torres' last opponent.
So first fight of the main card, we got Kevin Gastelum and Nasruddin Imavov.
I got my boy Nasruddin. Nasruddin is an absolute savage. He just beat Ian Heinisch and Edmund Shabazian. Like, you just see the output of this guy. He just keeps coming. Like, it's like a high volume, and for a middleweight, it's overwhelming for anybody. Like, I knew he's gonna be. I won lots of money on this guy too. He's just such a savage. Like, he kind of he comes in and he's so quick. He's long and he's vicious. Like, he finishes guys. He finished Ian Heinisch. He finished Edmund, and it was very convincing. Like, there was no way. Like, the only thing I see for Gastelum is like a good his good boxing. Like I could see him knocking out Nasruddin maybe. Like I could see it if Gaslam's like the old Gaslam that fought like Israel. Like if Gaslam's like firing on all cylinders and Nasruddin doesn't decide to like start wrestling him a little bit, because he's super well rounded too. Like that's why when I first saw this guy coming up, I was like, man, this guy is probably going to challenge for a title someday. And he's pretty young too. So he's like coming into the space and he's well rounded, super dedicated. That's the biggest problem with Kelvin, I mean. Like, holy crap, this guy, I feel like he's just never really dedicated. And like he always talks so much. I feel like he just needs to walk some like go to bed. Like this is a guy who should be fighting at welterweight. That's what I think of Kelvin Gaslam.
Yeah, I've never been on the Gaslam train, and I hopped off of even giving a fuck a long time ago.
I think
nothing against the guy.
He's a big name, and he makes the fight exciting. I think it's a huge opportunity for Nasruddin to get his name out there because he's fighting a big name, and if he can do what he's been doing to Ian Heinisch and Edmund Serbazian, and just like and do the same thing to Kelvin, like this guy's got a bright future. I think he will be. Probably put. I wonder what rank he is right now, but I know he'll be put in probably top 5 if he beats Kelvin, because they need fresh blood too, right?
Yep, I agree with you completely. Quick note: we don't have to go deep into this one. Aldana versus Aspen Ladd.
Oh, Aldana all the way. She also reminds me of Meatball.
Yeah, except Meatball knocks people the fuck out.
Dude, that was crazy. That was super good to see.
That's one of the best knockouts
like that,
all time.
Yeah.
Like she's in a highlight reel the rest of her life.
Oh yeah, big time. It was savage.
You don't even see like men barely pull that one off, let alone a woman.
It was super good. I believe she said though after the fight that she didn't mean to throw it. Like she was trying to throw a backwards kick. She's gonna do a spinning back kick.
Oh really? I think like it was interesting because like when I seen her like torque up for it. You could tell that like her body twisted, and then when she like looked up, you could tell like her mind kind of clicked, and she's like, "Oh, I'm already kind of loaded in this position," and then she just came around, and I don't even think like there was power behind it, but the placement was just unbelievable.
It was a super good knockout, but it wasn't her, but it was this previous one. This was Blades versus.
Gonna be honest, did not catch the card.
I caught the whole card. I caught the whole card. I watched the whole thing. It was a pretty good card. Kai Kara France took the victory over that huge, that really big name coming out of Russia. I actually
didn't know who Burroughs was. Thought that was kind of funny.
Oh
yeah.
But either way, where are we at here?
So we got Aldana. Me and you both got Dalton.
Aspen Ladd's losing that all the way.
This is a good one, and I like this one. I kind of this one's got
Ian
snuck.
Gary,
this one got snuck onto the card. Not a lot of people know, but similar to kind of a Paddy Pimblett in a way. He's from Ireland. He's a very talented prospect. He's charismatic. He's got a lot. I think
he's handsome. He's a handsome guy too.
Well, he's handsome unless he's got fucking herpes on his face.
Oh, jeez Louise. Yeah, well, I don't know what that was on his face.
Dude, I mean, I'm sorry, Ian. It might not be herpes, but
it could just been like a.
Yeah, like we all have bad breakouts, and I fucking feel sorry for the kid because
it did look like a.
He went out there on national TV, like a picture of Paddy Pimblett went out on UFC London night and like did all that with just a fucking herpes rash across his mouth. Like
it could, it could have been the staph infection or something.
It could have been something
Either way,
else too.
It was blatant, but I mean,
it was
whatever. He won the fight, so
I
cool.
mean, I went on the subreddit. It was all herpes. But
people are gonna meme. They're gonna
meme. No.
Who knows what it is? All I know is it's gone now. This guy's a handsome dude still.
For sure. No,
wouldn't surprise me.
He's a hell of a talent. I like the kid a lot. He's got a great attitude. I'm being mean on him, but this is a fucking podcast. We gotta make people laugh.
I think he's really good. He's facing, though, Darian Meeks, I believe his name is. Guy's also an absolute savage. They're both huge prospects coming up right now in the scene. Darian Meeks, man, he's been running through people. Like, I'm pretty sure he's also undefeated. He might have one loss or whatever, but this guy's mean. I think he's going to come to fight. I wouldn't be surprised if he beat Ian Gary. Ian Gary was prone to being hit in his last fight.
It's pronounced Weeks.
Is it Weeks? Oh, yeah.
5-1-0.
5-1-0. Well, that's early in his career, but when I watched him, he was pretty good. Maybe I'm giving him a little too much credit then. Like, I don't know. Ian Gary, though, did get hit, and who he fought last time was that Buddy, but that guy has been getting knocked out. Like,
see, I have a feeling we're going to go all Ian Gary on this one just because as the UFC's been doing it, Sean O'Malley, Paddy Pimblett, Ian Gary's someone that can command more attention.
I think like it was a great knockout too, and it was just like all of Paddy's fights. They're like really exciting. Like they don't go out unscathed, you could say.
No, he had a clean knockout his last fight, but the UFC does a really good job of feeding and sacrificing people to their rising stars.
I think it's just good matchmaking, right? Like really good matchmaking.
good matchmaking. Yeah, put a white blanket over their head and send them out there.
Well, at the same time as like these guys are coming up in their career, it's good competition, but it's not. And if they don't make it through this test, then this other guy gets this huge opportunity. I think they're good at like letting, or maybe just baiting these guys into going and fighting these killers. But that's why they signed up, right? They want these big opportunities. If they beat these guys, it's like they steal all their thunder, and that's huge, right? And you don't know what they're gonna do with it because a lot of these guys don't know how to self-brand as well as these other characters that we're talking about right now, like the Sean O'Malley's, the Ian Garys, and like Paddy Pimblett's. Like, so they come in and it's a chance to steal some. It's a chance to steal some thunder, and like if they do that, like imagine if that guy what is that guy?
Oh,
the green-haired
the fucking
wonder,
punching bag, Chris Marino or whatever.
Yeah, imagine if he did like get some like lucky.
I would have fucking rejoiced if he would have pulled a knockout on Sean O'Malley.
That
not even
he hit Sean like it just like he was invulnerable that night. Like
I loved it because he actually like got a couple off on Sean. Like not a nothing that was
significant. Yeah.
No, nothing that was ever dangerous for Sean. Sean walked through him, but he pushed through like an absolute like
onslaught.
Yeah, like literally his face was being tenderized as he went through him, and
that was
managed to get a couple off.
Fight,
so you got to give him props.
Holy.
Okay, so we both got Ian Gary.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dricus DePlus.
Yes.
Who's he fighting?
Anthony Hernandez.
Oh, Anthony Hernandez from the Ultimate Fighter, the newest season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's pretty good. And Dricus DePlus is a fucking savage, dude. He's been running through guys right now.
I got Dupuis.
Yeah, Dupuis or whatever. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
He is, man. Who did he beat last time? He beat somebody really, really good. I don't see Anthony. Anthony's just not on that level yet. I don't even know if he's UFC ready level yet. I think they should be giving him somebody way, way, way less dangerous for his first couple fights in the UFC, or at least give him a chance. Because Dricus DePlus is like, if he beats him, I'll be like, well, hands off to you. You've been training lots. But like, Dricus is so good, and he's a savage. Like, I see him running through Anthony. Like, I just see it. And even in Anthony's fights before, like, he just couldn't win against the best competition in that house. And then the competition wasn't like the highest level either, right? Like, and a lot of those guys developed into really good fighters, but like, so maybe Anthony's part of that crew, but I think that he still's got a way to go. I think he should be fighting still, maybe in a few lower promotions, get some more. I think he's pretty young too, so like he's got some time.
Oh yeah, for sure he does.
But yeah, I got Dricus all the way.
Me too.
Yeah.
This is the first fight on the prelim. Also one that got snuck in there, Rosenstrike versus Tibera.
And that's a last on the prelims.
First one. We're going backwards.
Oh, okay.
So there's
no way they're opening up the prelims, Rosenstrike.
Yeah, they are.
You're closing it. You probably just have it.
No, I don't. I literally did it. This is the thing. So you have the two title fights. Boom, 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 boom. So yeah, they actually have Arena Aldana versus Aspen Ladd as the marquee of the prelim.
Oh, really?
Yeah, interesting call. I agree. Like the first fight here.
There's probably early prelims too, though.
Yeah.
So like the prelims are going to be like super highlighted because it is a pay-per-view. So there'll be earlier prelims too. There's going to be a lot of fights.
Who do you got, Rosenstrike or Tibera?
I probably got Rosenstrike for this one. I think Tibera brings it on enough for Rosenstrike to get his counter strikes off and like outbox him. I don't think Tibera scares him as much as his last opponents either. So, and I think he's looking for something to prove. So I think his last fight went well for him.
Yeah, Rosenstrike's got everything to lose in this fight, and Tibera's got everything to gain.
Yeah, exactly. So I think Rosenstrike. Yep.
The last thing we're going to talk about for UFC, and then we'll move on to a different subject, is Charlie Olives versus Justin Gaethje, May 7th.
I want to say Justin Gaethje just because I think Justin is, if he gets to him, like I think he'll be able to finish him. I said that about Dustin Poirier too, though, but. I think, and Justin couldn't even finish Chandler. But Chandler might be just like hard to finish, or I don't know what was going on in that fight. I think Oliveira is just a little bit more composed than Justin based off his last fight.
So you're switching mid take.
I don't know. I'm all over the place with it. I want Gaethje to win, but I think Oliveira's probably gonna win. I'm sure he'll be the favorite.
Charlie, fucking Olives, all the way, baby. I don't care how much I'll owe people if I'm wrong here, but take that to the bank. Charlie Olives is gonna finish Gaethje.
You say? Yeah, I think he's the favorite for sure. He's just really good boxing right now. Super clean. Has the length on everybody in the division. His jiu-jitsu is unmatched.
He literally broke Dustin Poirier.
Yeah.
After that second round, he broke him.
I don't know what. That was a weird transition in that fight. Like, it felt like Dustin was, like, beating him. I don't know what happened. Like, it was so weird.
It was the moment. So, like, you're right. Dustin was outboxing him. He, like,
hooked his glove. He was, like, trying to get his arm away.
Dustin didn't care about that. Like, they even asked him. But, like, the main thing that broke Dustin was when Oliveira got the grappling and, like, got on top, you have two options. You can lay there and get the fucking shit kicked out of you, which Dustin did, or you try and get out and you risk submission. And Dustin respected the submission so much and getting choked out that he decided to sit there for almost 2.5 minutes and get pounded into submission. So, like, he took 2.5 minutes worth of punishment to achieve the same goal 5 minutes later in the round, right?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
So, that's like, right. It's just a bad gamble. Like, yeah, you might have to square him. He might take your back, but you also might get out, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I think he just had confidence that Oliveira couldn't inflict that much damage on him, and I think that's the big mistake a lot of these guys are making right now is that they're not taking him seriously as a finisher. Like, Gaethje went to war with Chandler for 15 minutes, didn't finish him. And
neither did Charles.
Charles finished.
No, he didn't.
TKO. He did.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, TKO.
On the feet or something?
No. But he clipped him, got him on the ground, and then just finished him.
I don't think he submitted him.
No, he didn't submit him.
He's TKO'd him.
TKO. But he was able to TKO him. Like, that's a huge thing, man. So, like, but you can also say that Chandler was a little softened up by it as well. But, like, a lot of people don't respect Charlie Olive's stand-up.
Oh, it's really good, actually. I noticed it on his way up. I just didn't think I honestly thought he would break more in these fights. Like, I really thought just because of his old fights, like, he would just give up. And he almost did in both of the fights. Like, you'd see him, he's getting, but then he doesn't give up. He, like, gets back up. And
he just had something special in beteen rounds.
Yeah,
there's no you saw it in Brazil.
Small Brazilian.
I'm not saying anything, but there's no you saw it in Brazil.
Well, yeah, I don't know. He does look really fucking right now.
Guy was getting broken every other fight, and then just a fucking world beater out of nowhere. It's a little weird, but I'm all for it. I mean, maybe he got good at training. I'm not saying anything, but there's no you saw it in Brazil.
Maybe some of that Brazilian good stuff. Well,
I heard he trains really hard.
Shut up. Well, I got Charles Oliveira for that one, and then we can move on to different things. Yeah, I think that we'll talk about it more as the day comes.
I got more points to make on Charlie Olives. Like, you could go on and on, but I think that my main thing with Charlie is
same thing as you could say what you were saying about Peter Yan. Comes from not much, right? The guy comes from not much. He lived he's struggled, and that he's hungry, and he's still probably hungry, man. He's probably not living the.
He hasn't even had his money fights yet.
Yeah, like he's still like, he's probably doing pretty good, but like
he's only one defense in, right?
Yeah, exactly. He's not like living the big life yet.
But what I'm saying is my thing with Charlie Olives, and the reason I respect him so much, and the reason he is my favorite fighter right now, is the fact that if he goes on a run here as champion, if he does what Kamaru Usman's doing in the welterweight, he will be undoubtedly the best lightweight of all time in an impactful sense. Because if you think about now, all you Khabib fans out there, hear me out. Like, I get it. He is undefeated. He barely lost a round. His competition in the UFC and on the run, I'm not saying it was poor. I'm not saying that it was the best either, but it wasn't the same caliber as what Charles Oliveira had to deal with.
But that's arguable. He's like,
well, no, but I'm saying if Charles goes on like a 6 or 5 title streak defense, because if Charles beats Gaethje.
Well, Charles can still beat his record. Charles is a young guy too. Right?
Well, and that's what I'm saying. He has to go on a run. Like as of right now, Khabib for sure is the best lightweight, without a doubt. There's no question.
But like if he stays and he still keeps.
And my main point is that if you're ever going to get Khabib back, it might be when someone outdoes him, and part of that streak to outdo him would have to be beating Islam. So if
he beats Islam,
if he beats Gaethje and he beats Islam, and say if he dominated Islam, and then continued to dominate what other lightweights come up because the division's so fucking stacked. If he goes on a 5 title defense streak, he could be the guy that brings Khabib back into the mix.
Oh, I 100% think so, especially if he beats Islam.
And the other point is Charles Oliveira has the style to beat Khabib. I'm not saying he would, but I'm saying he has the style to beat him. I think it's very
similar to this Aljamain.
We all said that Tony Ferguson was the guy to beat Khabib because, it never happened and Tony had the ground game and had all this when Tony was in his prime. Oliveira is better than Tony Ferguson on every level.
Oh, 100%. But like I said, it kind of reminds me like that Khabib versus Oliveira reminds me exactly of like Aljamain versus Peter Yan. A little bit the same, like kind of stylistically. I mean, they're lightweights and they're going to be able to throw a better technique, honestly. That's what I think about lighter weight classes. I think the techniques are just there more and more.
Yeah, you're faster.
You're pretty flexible when you're smaller. It seems that way anyways. So it kind of reminds me of that in the way that like Oliveira has the length, he has the jiu-jitsu, and same with Aljo has that sort of thing too. So, and then you got these good wrestlers that could change things up. And yeah, the striking though, for the difference between Peter Yan and Khabib, the striking is a little apparent, I think. I wonder how that would be too. Like, I honestly think that Khabib would still I think he would take his chances on the ground with, that's why I think his avenue would be. I don't think he would start just trying to he'll try to ground and pound him and do this Dagestani thing against the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and just prove a point.
I think so too, but I think Charlie Olives has got way better stand-up.
I agree too, and I think that could be a problem for Khabib, like something that he's never faced before. Somebody,
And Olives, the other thing about I find with jiu-jitsu practitioners is there's guys that are really good off their back. There's guys that are really good in the standing grappling form of it, because it all depends on how their jiu-jitsu game translates into MMA. Oliveira is outstanding on his back, even with ground and pound.
Yeah, he keeps people away, but nobody grounds and pounds like the old Khabib.
No, it's true. It would be a close fight.
He just mauls people. So yeah, it's a close one. We won't have. That's just fantasizing for now, anyway. So yeah, exactly.
All right, so yeah, we went and seen the fucking Batman too.
Yeah, Batman was really good. Totally changed, different perspective. I thought it had good cinematography. Wasn't a huge fan of the way they chose to play out every scene. But all in all, it was a pretty solid watch. So
I'm going to be a little bit higher praise on this one. I'm also a little bit of a bigger Batman nerd, but I thought that if you're looking at a rating scale, and I don't ever really like saying which movie's better, I kind of go off the quality of the movie and the impact that it has on you when you watch it. I put the Batman and the Dark Knight pretty well equal. And then it's a matter of preference to what you kind of enjoy as to what's going to be your favorite.
And yeah, I think that there's a good amount of difference between the two movies where it's almost it's night and day. Right?
The reason that I put the Batman at such a high level is because the direction, and I think it's all on Matt Reeves. Matt Reeves as a director for this movie had a vision that I don't think really anyone else could have pulled off the way he did. Felt like you were reading a comic book as the movie progressed. It wasn't your standard Marvel formula comic book movie, a DC EU, comic book movie. It didn't follow the classic plot arcs and character development. It was very much its own original identity, and it all started out with how it looked and how it felt. The first 10 minutes of this movie, and I'm pretty sure Dusty would agree with me, are so incredibly satisfying that you completely forget where you're at and what you're doing because you're kind of drawn into this world that's being created. The movie definitely is not a perfect movie by any standards, but where it separates itself from most other comic book movies is that because of all these crazy industries that are pumping out these huge high budget productions, it's hard to like be different because there's been so many ways of tweaking this formula. And Matt Reeves created something that was like completely its own thing. And he did it in a format that was very satisfying visually, had perfect writing, and created a more in-depth and interactive world than you've seen in any other comic book movie.
Yeah, I think that there was some of that. I do like their take on like action. I wasn't huge. Like I said, I'm a huge action fan. So like the way action plays out in films, I'm very critical of it for some reason. It's just something I noticed right away. And there was like a few things that I was like, okay, like, you know, I wish that happened in a more realistic way because I feel like that's still more exciting. And like they obviously have the capabilities to do this stuff. It's like that's the amount that stuff they could pull off already was like super incredible. And that's kind of where you have to give them some slack, right? Like, you know, it's a preference in a sense, and it's also they're limited by like I think it's a 14A movie.
It was PG-13.
Oh, it's
and that's how dark it felt.
Yeah,
but
but it's not how. Yeah. Like I said, they seem to stretch that out pretty good, and like
you also got to think too. Like The Dark Knight had a lot of stuff that wasn't like fully. Like it's hard to. Like I get what you're saying. Like they have the ability to do it, but there's also like, I feel like nowadays it's almost impossible to get that perfect action just the way how unions are set up. Like, you know, like you can't really ever put anyone in physical danger.
I don't think you have to. Like, I don't think you have to.
Well, no, but like these big productions.
Like animation's so good now. Like this, if they can do that, if they can have some of the incredible scenes, they can definitely do what I'm saying. It's more about how they visualize something playing out and like thought processes that typically would happen in those scenarios instead of ones that like are kind of rare and just like, makes it kind of like a miracle moment. I'm not a huge fan of miracle moments unless they're like pre-set up, like there's like a
I didn't find,
and there were a few things that like kind of were left unsaid. Maybe I missed it, but because you do have to watch these movies again, because sometimes you feel like there's like plot holes, but you might have just missed a part or didn't understand.
I watched it twice, so I got a little bit up on you there. But I would where I'm saying is like you're not allowed to like put people in danger anymore, and like obviously for good reason. There's safety in the workplace, for that reason, but. You look at like the old action movies in the 90s, like look at the first Lord of the Rings. You look at the Fellowship of the Ring. There was very minimal CGI. So the sword fighting and the battles were some of the best ones. Yes, CGI 100% can add to it if done properly. But look at like Rush Hour with like Jackie Chan.
That stuff was
nuts. You watch that stuff. The stuff you see in Marvel movies isn't even close because they had people actually getting in there. And, like, they're not taking full hits, but, yeah, they are getting roughed up.
Oh, no, I got my acting for film and television degree, and I actually did these short films with my couple of my buddies. And they run this thing. It's called, like, Euphoria or something. Euphoria something.
Are you on the HBO show, Euphoria?
No, it's just a YouTube channel. It's really cool, but it's pretty much him. He puts all these special effects on, and we do these like action stunt scenes, right? And they're all stunt guys. Like that's why we did it, right? It was for me. I was more just like a fill-in guy, so I filled in on like 2 episodes that they did. But they had like lightsaber duels, and like they would make. For example, I'm in one that has us with a bunch of Nerf guns, and we're like riding around in this like underground park, and we meet each other, and we have like this Nerf gun fight. But the Nerf guns are like, they look like real guns because of the special effects, and like they make it so it's like an intense scene. Like one guy jumps over a car and like shit like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It's actually pretty nuts how he spent the special effects that make it like they make like childlike activities into like these super intense like.
Oh yeah, well the amount of like manipulation they can put on a scene. With
and it's actually hilarious. Like, and it was a lot of fun. But one thing is like they're throwing their bodies on the line sometimes. Like sometimes some of those stunts and stuff aren't always like crazy, especially like where we're at, right? Like we're just doing like
you guys aren't big box office.
No,
budget.
but I do so I do think. But they did have cool things like they have like these body like vests that they put on, and they're like they're made of like plastic or some sort of like carbon or something like that. Carbon fiber or something like that, but you can like full on kick this kid in the chest and he'll land like he'll like fly back onto his back and he'll just get up and like he feels fine, right? And it's like, it's so cool.
Sounds like I want to get me one of those so I can kick
honestly,
my friends.
they're like, it was like that was the fun, like some of the stuff that they had to deal with this kind of stuff, make sure there's less injuries and the safety measures we took and but they were like like some of these guys are professional. Some they've trained with what's his name. They did some stuff in that movie. Those they're kind of foreign movies, but Tony Jaa, if you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like movies like Tony Jaa. I don't know if it was Tony Jaa in particular. There's a couple of big names, like if you're into those sort of mixed martial arts movies, that they had actually gone after we had done our stuff. Like they had gone after to do, because they were all like, oh man, they were so athletic. The guys I was working with, like they were incredible. Yeah.
Did you win an Oscar?
No, I did not. No Oscars for me.
Did you get bitch slapped by Will Smith?
No, we had the safety and the knowledge to avoid that. Yeah.
Keep my wife's name out of your fucking mouth, buddy. The Batman.
Yeah, Batman. Overall, out of 10, for me, I'll give it a 7.5.
7.5?
Yeah, 7.5. I would take away 1 point. And like if I'm rating it, 1 point for like realism, in a sense that I feel like it's just there's some, even if it's PG-13, just too unrealistic for me. Some scenarios in it.
To preface that, Dusty will always give movies a very bad realism score. There isn't a single movie I don't think I've seen that has came out with a perfect realism grade.
I just think that even if it's fantasy, as long as you keep it in the realm of like what you've introduced already, and keep it in, like you're not adding all this random stuff that happens that is like that hasn't already been like foreshadowed or something, then it's like kind of unrealistic. So, and then if you put boundaries in your like fantasy world, they should always be there. They shouldn't like disappear for certain things, right? Like if a guy can do something in one scene, he should not be able to do that in another scene, which happens just all too much in superhero films. This one had like a pretty good level on that. It was more just how scenes played out. Like there's a few things that happened and I was just like in disbelief. Thought it was a little long, so that's 0.5. Little long for what it had in it.
I'll make sure to send your notes to Matt.
The other one is like I didn't like I said, the act, like how the action was. Like I thought some of the action could have been like way more intense. I thought like more secretive, but then again, I think that might have been on purpose. So maybe I'm wrong on that. I'll give it that. But there's definitely a point in there. Another point in there. That's for sure. I'll just leave it at that.
That's fair.
7.5, not moving an inch.
I'm not gonna try and change your score. I'll just give mine.
I did. Yeah.
So I give it. I've done a fair bit of research on like after the movie, I was up for about probably 4 hours thinking of like videos to like look up on the reviews and like the technical aspect of how the movie was made. What was the vision behind it? What were they trying to go for? What comic book material did they source? All this kind of stuff. And after like going through everything, going through a lot of reviews, I found more and more about the movie that I liked and more that I wanted to see again. So I ended up going a second time with a different set of friends. And there was a lot that you'll miss in this movie the first time. I'm not going to give any spoilers, but there is quite a few things. You really value the stuff that he does like a second time. Like it's almost better the second time you see it, it's 10 times better of a movie because you understand exactly what you're doing and where you're going with it. But yeah, 9.5. He did something with this movie. He made a Batman movie that rivaled The Dark Knight without being The Dark Knight or anything like The Dark Knight. And to me, that's huge points on creativity and something that is going to keep you entertained. Like this was the first movie 3-hour-long movie that I actually sat through the entire time and really enjoyed. The last 30 minutes, there definitely is a bit of a pacing problem, especially if you don't know anything about like Batman source material. But it's there for a reason. Once you understand that reason, it's not as hard the second time to sit through. The other thing is the casting. Jeffrey Wright as Jim Gordon is the best Gordon. He's a great utility character. Like these guys are actually buddy. The whole movie is set as a detective noir piece, which I think is a brilliant point of view to go from. I love the fact that Batman actually is narrating himself. It's book-ended. So you have the ability for Batman to actually go into his journals, like get an inside of what he's actually thinking, which creates a much more intimate relationship with the character. The other thing is The Dark Knight had Heath Ledger. Heath Ledger gave the performance of a fucking lifetime. Every kid that grew up in the 90s and the 2000s will never forget that performance.
Oh yeah, it was so sweet.
Especially if you're a guy. Like I mean, like I'm sure there's girls that love it, but like to all those comic book nerds out there,
oh yeah,
there wasn't anything like that got even close to that performance. And
no, I agree.
I think that this movie was able to match The Dark Knight's level without a character that stole the show. Like this was the first Batman movie where the Batman was actually probably the most influential character. It wasn't about the villain as much as it was actually about Batman and Batman's journey into what it means to actually be someone who's trying to undertake this enormous task. And I think going into the movie, that's like, without spoiling anything, you're going in to see Batman's journey, like to see him grow as a person, as a superhero, and just as a human being. It's not about anything else. Like there is all this stuff that's going on, but at the end of the day, the movie's about what he needs to become in order to
make a difference.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, I got that out of it because I mean, yeah, I definitely got that out of it. Like it has a lot of potential for a future. Like it's one of those films that you could see the second movie being better than the first one kind of deal, right?
Yeah.
Whereas like a lot of those other movies, some movies can accomplish that. Like once the first one's out, that's the only good one, right? And the rest of it kind of degrades into a worse and worse and worse. There is a potential for that, but it also has the potential to beat it for sure because it set itself up for a pretty good story because they have a lot of good actors, a lot of good characters that are left to be desired. That's like
Colin Farrell.
If anything pissed me off in that film too, is like, man, I want to see more of these bad characters really get to play themselves out, and there's quite a few of them in there. So
and the funny part is I find that like the characters are way more comic book orientated than like The Dark Knight was. Like it seems like they could be more. You could find these characters in a comic book rather than just like a regular person playing that character in a movie, right?
No, 100%.
So it kind of, but there's still a realism to it. It's kind of this weird mesh, right?
No, it's a mesh for sure. I mean, it's film noir. It's a good. It has a pretty decent balance, I think.
If we're talking about it like in the terms of like, because Matt Reeves definitely set himself up to create a universe like probably comparable to the Dark Knight trilogy. If this is their Batman Begins, we're in good fucking shape.
Yeah, I think so too. I think overall solid beginning. Like it's way better than that. Was it Warner Brothers who had that release of that?
Oh fuck! Don't even bring up that other shit.
Oh man, who was that again? That's
Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck.
Batman vs Superman.
That was a terrible movie.
Yeah, no, it wasn't good. I mean, there were certain things I didn't mind about Ben Affleck, but was
it Batman versus Superman?
Yeah, that was his first movie because they tried to do they tried to be Marvel even though they were like 10, 15 years behind them, right? So they tried to do a whole bunch at once.
Yeah, it was just too much all over the place, that one.
Last thing I want to say about this movie that we both can agree on. The cinematography and the way this movie's shot
super appealing to
is like one of the for how dark it is, it's one of the prettiest movies you'll see.
Yeah, 100% agreed. They did a really, really good job on that. And especially because it's like, what are people expecting with a film noir? It didn't. And actually, lots of film noirs, if you think about it, are like unrealistic. Like you watch any film noir, and it's like it jumps really far into the abstract. Whereas this one kind of kept away from being too abstract, and like it was very. Yeah, like you said, for being in film noir, it was actually more realistic than what one would expect.
The one thing that I loved about this movie, and this isn't giving away too much, is there's a scene, like a lot of the movie takes place in a certain area, even though it doesn't really, like you don't really notice it until after the movie. But there's this continuity of characters and this realism of time, in that like in reality, like if you're trying to solve a case, you're always going to be going back to like the scene of the crime.
Oh, the way that all played out. Oh.
Yeah, like, and you're gonna always be dealing with like the same people that are always in that area. And I really enjoyed like the continuity of characters and like how
it really brings Gotham City to the front, right? And I don't think that The Dark Knight did that well.
No,
yeah,
I don't think
this one felt like it had its own felt like when you're in there, it's its own place unique from anywhere else. Really, it really did feel like that the way they did it.
Like I would say the closest film that was even like it for the world would be like, it was kind of almost similar to The Joker,
Oh yeah, I still haven't seen the.
Wow, yeah. That's it's pretty decent.
I just like I said, it just seemed more of like a dramatic, and I'm like not that dramatic.
It's dark.
I should check it out.
It's very dark.
I'm one of those people that leaves that kind of stuff to like the last second, and it just pops up in my life, and I'm like, hey, I got a couple hours. I'll check this out.
I'm not just doing shit.
Yeah, exactly. Well, on that note, I think we should call it. Yeah, it was a good first day.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for listening, and like, comment, and subscribe, and let us know what your thoughts on it. And we'll be updating about once a week. So see you guys then. Cheers.
Peace out, ladies and gentlemen.